Okay, there we go. That's better. So, if you are not aware, which most of you are now, obviously we have had the mass incident. I'm going to call it an incident because TikTok and YouTube don't like that word to be used too much. So, as you know, we have this incident ongoing. So I'm just going to go through everything that we've gone through this morning because we're just warming up the room again. That's the only trouble when you come on and off, you lose your room and then you have to start all over again. So I woke up this morning in the UK to a message about this happening. It's not the sort of information that you want to see. It's hit all over the UK as well. So the first thing I opened when I opened up the news was that it reached the UK very, very quickly, unlike Pedro and Aaron, who took 48 hours almost for us to get the information that they were indeed on the run, having unalived someone. So I'm just going to put the comments on there. Hey, Betty Dan Boop. So starting from this morning, just in case though there's people that want to catch up with everything that's gone on. So starting from this morning, at 6:30 my time. So if you, I don't know what is it, around 12 o'clock, 12:30 your time, at depending roughly where you are across America anyway. So I woke up and there was the incident had started to unfold, and by 6:26 in the morning, 12 hours ago, they had released an image of him, their suspect, and a picture of the car that they had obviously come across and had that as a car that was of interest to them. So they obviously believe it is connected to him. And this was a photo of a white Subaru that they found in the town of Lisbon. So then his photo was released, and we know him now as Robert Card. So at 6:31, they were talking about who he was. So there was a bulletin that had been put out on the Maine Information and Analysis Centre, and it just sort of said initial information about him that we had. We knew that he had been in a mental health facility for 2 weeks in the summer, and it was this summer, and then he was released. And then we didn't really get that much more information on that. Why can I not hear the scanner in the background? Don't pause it. So I've got the scanner on in the background. So at 6:39 in the morning, my time, UK time, there was a note put out on the news that all municipal buildings in the Lewiston area would be closed today as their manhunt continued through to the city, and also that the schools would be closed. And people were told that they needed to shelter in place. Hey, everyone coming in. And so any events and any programs for tomorrow, which would be Friday, they were also said that they were cancelled, and the emergency services said that they were obviously on standby for mass incidents. They're prepared for this kind of thing, obviously. So then President Biden briefed on the mass incident, and he had said that that they were offering full federal support, and that the US president was going to continue to get updates. Really helpful for him to just get some updates on the situation. Of course, that's going to be super helpful for everyone, that he's getting those updates, and that's it. And at that point, at 6:45 in the morning, so 1:45 1:45 in the morning in the US in some areas. He hadn't said anything publicly about it. Then there was a tweet posted out there to say stay close to your loved ones, and this is all on what I'm getting from in the UK on Sky News. Then there was obviously photographs of the police cars. There was a big sign that said shelter in place. And then obviously CCTV images then started to surface as well. So when they say shelter in place, for those of you that aren't in America, for those of you that do not know what that means, it basically means that residents in the area that are asked to shelter in place are asked to shelter in place, and this means that they are to stay in their home. I'm assuming, obviously, if you are at work, I don't know whether that would mean you would have to shelter in place there. I'm guessing they would perhaps maybe suggest getting home. I don't know that much about it, but in most places it should be where you are and stay indoors, ideally at home because you want to be at home. But I guess if you were at work or you were in a bar in that area, they're probably expecting you to stay in that bar because obviously at that point it's a really hot area. And so when you're sheltered in place, you need to lock all your doors and all your windows, close your curtains and your blinds. And you know what? I'd even go as far as turning the lights off, just so that you can't be, seen as a shadow anywhere. So that's quite a scary thing to have to do. I would say I would be petrified myself. They picked people up in vans. Oh yeah, see they probably would do. That sounds like I suppose if you've got like police support getting you back and forth as well, that's always good, isn't it? And so then there's been discussion on the weapons law, and we all know where I stand with that. We're not going there. So they said at 7:30 in the morning, so that would be about 1:30 your time, that there was teenagers that were witness to what had happened. A witness came forward who was in the bowling alley, and he had said that he had actually gone inside the bowling machinery to hide from this man. And he also said that he was about 15 feet away from him. And somebody who was further along said that they had actually heard the noise of the pops that obviously these weapons make, and that the place that he was in then closed down, and shut everything and locked in so that people could be safe.
13 County, I'll be on 245, US Route 202.
Temple.
It is devastating. Betty damn boop. It is heartbreaking, faithless. It really is. So further on into the morning, they then say that offices are closed in the neighbourhood towns, and they said that they will be closed today. So that was the next update that was given. We were on here earlier, and there was some dude. I was on the police scanner, and he was called James something, and he was like really angry, and he was on the phone, and he was really mad, and he was like, "I'm gonna blow everyone up," and I'm like, "Really? You're gonna say that when everybody is like, when the police have got this, this on their minds, and this is their problem right now, and you're gonna just threaten that out? I don't understand." So obviously, as time is progressing on, at this point they're saying around 15 people had been hurt and unalived, and the ones that were hurt, because they said between 50 and 60 people were hurt, they weren't all from the weapon itself. They were from people trampling and stampeding to escape from the areas that they were in. When I last looked, when I did the news briefing update, they did say that they didn't know the ages of the victims because they didn't look at them.
Also.
But they identified who was male
13 County officer, just speaking with the
and
female property owner.
and who was female.
10-4.
So I'm not sure that they're telling the truth that they don't know. I just think they don't want to say, and that's fair enough. Can't argue with that, can we, guys? Yeah, 20. Yeah. Well, it was 18 earlier. They confirmed 18 on the last update, because there was a few numbers that were being thrown around. But it would be interesting to know, because obviously some of that was in the bowling alley, and obviously with the bowling alley there's going to be kids there, so it wouldn't shock me if there has been 1 or 2 children.
County 5.
So
you make your way to 27 Depot Street. Just received a call from Seco Security. They're advising there's a female on the elevator there that apparently it stopped working, but they're no longer in contact with her and they don't know her name. Would you like me to send the fire department?
right, okay.
10-4.
So then at around 8 o'clock in the morning, they're starting to give information about him and what he is like, why he is a risk, and he is a risk. So they said that he was a trained firearms instructor. He was in the Army Reserves, and he had been named as the person of interest. We now know that he's been upgraded to wanted. He's got an arrest warrant for murder. Because of his background, that is a nightmare situation for police. Because obviously, he can probably keep himself undercover, and he's got survival skills. But as well, he's got some knowledge about weapons too. So that started to materialize. The CCTV images with him showing his face. He's not hiding his face or anything like that. He is literally just out with his weapon there, and it shows him in the bowling alley. Now, the good thing about CCTV is obviously it's going to leave a footprint for him, and they're going to be able to kind of trace him. But I don't know Maine. I've never been, so I don't know how vast the area is, and I don't know if he's got like a lot of places that he can hide, if that makes sense. Yes, 18. That's what it was when I played the latest update. But I've been away for an hour, so I don't know. Like they could have announced anything in that time. So people are starting to come out and they're starting to talk about their experiences in what is happening and what has happened, what they've witnessed and that kind of thing. And then roads continue to remain closed. Places are being locked down. The schools are being locked down. Someone came forward and said that his friend had been shot as well, and he was 21 years old, but he was doing okay. So that's also good that he's doing okay. Then they plan to hold a news conference, which they've done, and I will play that again for you guys in a minute. More images of police, people milling around, that kind of thing. Then they talked about Maine's laws around the weapons, and it surprised me to learn that they don't actually require a permit to have a firearm, and this is to do with the culture of the weapon ownership and traditions of hunting and sport that they would do. And they've tried to push for control laws, and they just haven't been able to. It's been unsuccessful because of the ownership and just the culture of it all. Then they tried to get a mandatory background check on private sales. Now, why would you not want people to have a background check? Surely you would want that for your people, for the safety. But no, they didn't want that either, and that failed. They then released a more what they say was a better picture. I can't say that it is a better picture, but it fitted my screen better. They have armed police guarding the hospital, and Lisbon police asked residents to shelter in place. So it's starting to move into different locations as well. So they were asked to shelter in place, obviously because they think that he's obviously moving through places. And so for that reason, I mean, they said it takes about 8 hours and something from Maine to get into Maine, into New York, and he's had way over that amount of time. So he could be in New York. So they are on high alert as well. They then updated the advisory to go to the hometown of Robert. So again, did they have intelligence to say that that's where he may be going? It is scary, Jenny. It really is. Not in Maine, no. Maine, they don't have it. It's they don't have it. Then someone was saying that they'd never lock their doors. Now that they are going to, I mean,
I spoke with the two property owners, and they're not going to shoot it for now. I'll be 10-4.
So obviously we know that the two locations that this occurred in one was the Shemenges Bar and Grill. I don't know if I've said that right. And the other one was the Spare Time Recreation Bowling Alley, which is going to have children in it. They said that at least 2 people lost their lives in the bowling alley. There was a text message from a friend who was caught up in the bowling alley, and he was in a group of 8 people, he said, and 5 of which were shot. 2 of those were unalived. And the area, they said that they witnessed a young male being detained and taken out of the scene in a police car, but he isn't the person of interest. That's not really relevant. And then we got a breakdown of incidences across the United States. So in America, this far, there has been 565 incidences of mass pew-pewing. That's 565 incidences. So that tells me that I get that, the weapon doesn't go, hey, guess what, guys? I'm just going to go off and do this today. No, it's the people. It's the people that are the problem. Mental health, whatever, but people are the problem. And if it wasn't so accessible, this wouldn't happen. And that's all I'm going to say as my view on that. That's a lot. And they say from 2014, the US sees 39,000. 39,000. Just say that again, in case you didn't hear. 39,000 deaths relating to weapon incidences in the US. That's too many. Something's got to change. It is the people. It is not the weapon. Now, when that sheriff came on and he was like, hey, the guns don't do this. It's like, no, they don't. It's the person that's behind it. That's the problem. And there's a lot of people with a lot of problems that shouldn't have them in the end. So They say that this incident is for 2023 is now the most deadly this year. So, so what they've got here is obviously this one, with the 20. At the time it was 20, but it's 18 that are confirmed and dozen injured. Then there was Monterey Park in California in January, where there was 12. I think that was the Chinese New Year one. So there was 12 that passed away as a result of that, and 9 injured. Then Allen in Texas, 9 deceased, 7 injured. Enoch in Utah on the 4th of January, 8 of the same family gone. Henrietta, Oklahoma, 7. Now, literally, in the last few days, we have had Pedro Argote, who stole the life of a judge for doing his job. Another incident. And then days later, Aaron Pennington, who took the life of his ex, or his ex-to-be, with a weapon. What is going on? Hey, Macy. Hey, Donna. So then we scroll on a bit more. It's starting to get to daylight.
Fall 5, County. Fall 5, go ahead. I don't know if you copy, but I'm pretty sure the fire department said you can cancel the other firefighters, the victims out of the elevator.
So there's people that just are just coming forward, saying that they're crying or they've been upset, they've seen it. People are sort of, people. Stephen King even had a thing to say on it. So what they say is there is 400 million weapons in circulation. $400 million. That's nuts. And then they expand the area for the search 5 hours ago. So that was at 2:00 my time. And at that point, he'd been AWOL or missing for 14 hours. So he could be anywhere now. And he was still at large. The shelter in place, locking the doors. And if you do have a pew, please don't leave it visible for people to, access, or any armory that they may come across, anything like that, because you're just asking for people, if like with what was it, what was his name? Cavalcanti, he found one in the garage. It was just a sawn off, just left there, and he helped himself. So please don't do that. Areas and schools were cleared. And then we had the update. And there was more information coming out on him. So this is what we then started to learn. This was 4 hours ago. So the US Army has said that Robert is a petroleum supply specialist, sergeant, first class, typically a senior non-commissioned officer rank in the reserve, whatever that means. He enlisted in December 2002, and he had not, and this is important, he had not had a deployment, no combat deployment. So there's no, because when I came on earlier, like earlier in the day before this was sort of released, I questioned that, like, did he have PTSD from the time that he served? So he's got all those years experience and training. He enlisted in 2002, but he has never been deployed anywhere, so he doesn't have that, and he's got a batch of medals that he should have removed from him. They start to just 3 hours ago, they deploy extra police officers across New York, but they still don't know where he is. And obviously, this is a concern because he's still at large. No, and it's a concern they don't know where he is, what his motives are, why he did it, what his plans are. And I kind of feel like, because there was another car of interest found, and I'm kind of thinking, and I did think maybe he planned it that way. I don't know if he did or he didn't. I'm just surmising that there was a second vehicle that they were interested in. So did he just park the car up and be done with it? Then I'm gonna and then the latest is, who are you? So some guy who helped them escape, speaking out. Maine continues to reel from what's happened. People are saying they've never seen anything like it. They probably haven't in Maine, but it's not like it's an uncommon thing in the US. So we now have the arrest warrant issued for him. He is wanted on 8 counts of murder. Now, the reason it's only 8 counts, even though they know they have 80 victims, 18, not 80, that sounded like 80, but it wasn't, it was 18. Even though they have 18, because they haven't identified them yet, they haven't made them 18 counts of murder. So currently it is for 8 counts, but that is going to rise, obviously. He is a concern because of his background and his training, and he did work as a firearms instructor as well. Now, let's not forget he was admitted to the mental health facility and he had heard voices. Now, sometimes I feel the MH card is used too frequently, a lot. However, there are some mental health issues that cannot be controlled. Postnatal purple psychosis is one of them. Hearing voices is another. But obviously that's going to be investigated to see how genuine that was at the time, whether he was medicated. Now, yes, he should control his medication and he may not have been controlling it, but the dosage may not have been right. And then if he was hearing voices and stuff like that, that may be why he then wasn't complicit. It's really hard sometimes to get people that need the medication to comply and take it. But things like that is really hard. So we are where we are with that one. Like it's mental health, and yes, I get people should take responsibility, but there are some things, not that justifies what's happened at all. But again, he may have that as a what do you call it? No, they don't. No, they do not have that. Yeah. But they will change that when they have identified family, when they've told family members and they've identified the other victims, that will go up. So, again, if you are in the areas that are on lockdown, or you see him in a completely different area, first of all, obviously call 911. Please do not approach this man. He is armed, he is dangerous, and he clearly does not take value for anyone's life, as you know. Yeah. And obviously in time we're going to learn how much planning went into this. There's going to be Google searches, there's going to be information on this. More and more is going to come out on this as time passes by. We're going to get so much information. There was a shooting victim identified as Joseph Walker. He is one of the 18 victims that passed away, and has been identified by his father as Joseph Walker. He was the bar manager at the Schemenge's Bar and Grill, which was one of the 2 locations that the attack happened. He told the outlet that he was waiting for news about his son for more than 14 hours. And obviously, he has sadly had the news that his son did not survive that incident. There's around 100 off-duty health workers responding to the incident. They just came in and stepped in and jumped into action. There is an injured man in critical condition after being hit 4 times. And this was somebody that had been in the Schemenge's Bar and Grill. He was just 23. Just 23. You might have to swipe in and then come back out again. He was caught in the spine, in the kidneys, and he was in surgery today. Whoosh. And he is not out of the woods yet. They are saying there is a sense of nervousness as authorities are committing as many resources as they can. Well, that's to be expected, isn't it? Let me just share my screen here.
1046.
I don't know what I'm going to put on. I'm going to put on the news from earlier. So. I don't know where we are. He's not sure. He's not shy about it. God. How many hours has it been? It's gotta be like 15 to 16 hours. Yeah. He could be anywhere. Yes, 20 at least. Yeah, it is.
Army reservist with a history of mental illness. A law enforcement bulletin sent out to authorities last night describes him as recently hearing voices and threatening to shoot up a National Guard base in Saco, Maine. The bulletin says he was committed to a mental health facility for 2 weeks this past summer. This is literally an all hands on deck situation with hundreds of federal, state, and local law enforcement descending on the scene. The FBI, U.S. Marshals, ATF, all assisting. The FBI has assigned dozens of agents and experts to help process the crime scene and assist with the victims. The FBI is also helping in the manhunt, which involves helicopters and other aircraft. Road checkpoints are being set up in an effort to lock down the area and keep cars from escaping the region.
And Pierre, investigators are examining 2 different crime scenes right now. What's the latest from police on that?
Well, I'm just told it's a horrific situation. 2 crime scene involving multiple bodies, multiple injured that they're sorting through. That's why the range of the dead is fluid. The range of the injured is fluid. So, in both cases, there were organized events going on at the bowling alley and at the restaurant. I'm told, unfortunately, children at both locations.
And big picture, what do you make of this? Because you say gun violence has moderated a bit, but we're still looking at more than 500 mass shootings this year.
There are thousands and thousands of people who have been shot and killed and wounded in mass shootings. And so far this year, there have been over 500 mass shootings, over 500, 601 people killed, I believe, 2,300 people injured.
Wow. Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas, thank you.
Thank you.
And for more on the police response to the shooting, let's bring in ABC News contributor, former FBI agent Brad Garrett. Brad, authorities say that this person of interest had previously threatened to shoot up a National Guard facility. Do you think there were any red flags that should have been caught before this shooting happened?
My guess is there are a number of red flags. But Diane, that goes to two things: how the person who hears them interprets what they're saying, and how serious they really take it. You know, firearms are a very common thing for people in rural areas to have. And so as a result, him having an AR-15 in an urban environment, we would take a second look at him. In a more rural environment, not so much. If he's never been adjudicated by a judge, for example, that he's mentally ill, it doesn't restrict him from buying firearms. But to your point, should someone have said something? The answer is yes. I'd like to know more about if it's true that he made some threat to shoot up the National Guard. How long ago was that? And did anybody in law enforcement deal with that?
Of interest, he's not been named a suspect, but whoever this shooter is, how unusual do you think it is that he's managed to evade authorities for this long?
So one of the issues that mass shooters have is they stay at the scene too long. This guy, I think because he's a proficient shooter, in other words, his aim and his ability to shoot precisely and quickly is much better than the average mass shooter who's not trained like he is. So to go to one location and fire off a lot of rounds in probably 2 minutes, maybe 3, and then immediately leave, go to a second location, repeat that at that location, and then immediately leave the second location, and then his car is found, as we've talked about, miles away. So that's the big difference. Proficiency, probably had a number of adequate magazines to reload, and he moved quickly.
Just horrible. Brad, how crucial is the timing now?
Well, anytime you have somebody on the loose that's committed this atrocious acts is a big deal, only because you don't know what's in his mind. If he's mentally unstable, if paranoid delusions are still driving him, if that's accurate, would he then seek another location? Or has he given up and actually shot himself? We just don't know that. But it is really important to locate him, whether he's dead or alive.
All right, ABC News contributor, former FBI agent Brad Garrett, thank you. And stay with ABC News Live for the latest on this developing story. We expect an update from police around 10:30 Eastern. We will bring that to you live when it happens. Coming up, the growing humanitarian crisis in Gaza, why some hospitals say they're closing as Israel sends tanks into Gaza. James Longman has the latest from Tel Aviv. Facing new ethics and tax questions. What Senate Democrats are alleging about a $250,000 loan. Next.
This is ABC.
North Star is going to be 6-0. Down Street 6-0.
10-4-69. There's the one from this morning.
Our focus is on the investigation and getting this right the first time. And we're doing that with our partners. And we do appreciate you putting out information from time to time. Moving forward, we would appreciate it if you got that information from us so that we knew that it was accurate. And that is incredibly important for all of us from an investigative standpoint and from a public safety standpoint, that we have a unified front with this information as we release it. The delay in coming here with you now is simply because we want to confirm information from our end. We want to make sure the information we're giving you and the information that goes out to the general public is accurate. So we do have some information here that we will release. It is here on the podium. And this is a general caution to the public that approximately 6:56 this evening, a couple of shooting incidents occurred here with multiple casualties in the city of Lewiston. And police are currently searching for a Robert R. Card, 4/4 of 1983 of Bowdoin.
Where is he?
Card is considered armed and dangerous. He is a person of interest, however, and that's what we'll label him at moving forward until that changes. If people see him, they should not approach Card or make contact with him in any way. The shelter-in-place order that currently stands in Lewiston remains. A vehicle, which was a vehicle of interest in this incident, was located in Lisbon, and we are now also asking residents in Lisbon to shelter in place. So please share that information with communities as well. If anybody sees Mr. Card or has any additional information reference to these two shootings in the city of Lewiston, please contact 911. If they see anything suspicious, please feel free to call their local authorities. We have literally hundreds of police officers working around the state of Maine to investigate this case, to locate Mr. Card, who again is a person of interest and a person of interest only. And we'll continue to gather information so that we can bring the suspect to justice and ultimately seek prosecution down the road. This release also includes a photo, which I believe I have seen from various sources. I would also let you know that we have created a reunification location, and that would be at the Auburn Middle School, so in the neighboring community of Auburn, at 38 Falcon Drive. Again, that's the Auburn Middle School. When I say reunification center or location, what that means is that if somebody has a question or they have a concern, they can't find a loved one, they believe that a friend or a family member may be involved in what occurred here tonight in Lewiston, that they could respond to that location. We will have some of our behavioral health liaisons, counselors on site, and we'll also be providing information as it becomes available to us. As you can imagine, and as you know, there are multiple scenes in the city to include multiple hospitals, multiple follow-ups, a lot of witnesses we're speaking with, and a lot of leads. The general public has been very cooperative and very forthcoming with information. So I would expect if we have additional information, we'll be happy to come back and share it with you. I know that from the city of Lewiston standpoint, probably going to close City Hall after this briefing and probably move everybody out. But again, we appreciate your partnership and your patience. I would offer to take questions just so you know that I probably won't have answers. And as long as you know that going in, there's no disrespect intended in that. Feel free to ask a couple, and if I think we can get there, then I'm happy to answer those. If not, we do have work to do on behalf of our communities, and that's our primary focus this evening.
There are specific figures about casualties are out there. The Sheriff Sands told me up as many as 20.
I know they found a boat. I know they found a.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. And I know that there's been a lot of numbers out there. This is a very fluid situation. So the last thing I want to come up is give you a number and then 3 hours from now change that one direction or another. So I don't have firm numbers on that. And when I do, we'll be happy to share those with you because it's an important piece of healing and it's an important piece of information for all of us to be aware of. But I don't have a firm number on that.
We're 14 hours in, 20 hours in. And you still
I think I just answered that question to say that I'm not going to give you any specific numbers. And there's been a lot of numbers all over the map all evening. And I don't think that that's helpful because it doesn't help family members. It certainly doesn't help the community to see, well, they just said this and they said that. So if you want accurate information, I'm prepared to give that to you when I have it. I don't have that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, Mr. Card, who we're speaking about right now, is a person of interest and a person of interest only, right? I'm not listing him as a suspect at this point, and we're not prepared to go into his background or anything else that we may be aware of. One more question?
You're looking for one shooter, correct?
Yeah.
We're looking for this person of interest right now, and that's what we'll label and list and speak about at this particular moment. When we have additional information, I'm happy to share that. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Again, thank you for your time. And I know Assistant City Manager O'Malley will make arrangements, I think, to move everybody out of the building. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. These are our flyers that we were mentioning.
You've been listening live to Mike Shashuk. He's the commissioner of the Maine Department of Public Safety. He wanted to give the public a brief update on the very fluid situation that he described, a mass casualty event in Lewiston, Maine, happening tonight and still underway. Citizens there are asked to shelter in place in 2 different locations, urging the public remain very vigilant. We know
like
that there has been a suspected shooting. 2 locations are mentioned, a bowling alley in Lewiston, as well as a bar and grill.
And I'm wondering
they also released a photo of a person of interest and identified that person in the photo.
In mind.
And I want to bring in Aaron Katursky, who has details as senior investigative reporter here. Aaron, I know you've been digging into the background of this person of interest.
His name is Robert Card. He's 40 years old, and police are calling him a person of interest, and they say there is still a potential danger to the public. And so while they look for him, they've asked people in the area of Lewiston and some neighboring communities to stay in their homes, to not come outside. And if they do see this person, to simply call police and not approach, because he is considered armed and dangerous.
And you're learning more about his background as well from law enforcement authorities.
Law enforcement sources tell ABC News that Robert Card has a military history. He is a firearms instructor, and he also spent 2 weeks in a mental health facility over the summer after we're told he reported hearing voices and made threats to shoot up a National Guard facility in Saco, Maine. So they are looking at a person of interest who has both military history and mental health history.
Absolutely. Now, authorities in Lewiston have released photos, surveillance photos of this person of interest, armed with a high-powered tactical weapon, an assault-style weapon. We understand that, we talked to eyewitnesses inside the bowling alley, and a woman, Riley Dumont, described hearing gunshots as a youth bowling league was underway. I want to bring in now Pierre Thomas, our Chief Justice correspondent in Washington. Pierre, I know that the president has been briefed, the Attorney General has been briefed. What are you hearing?
Again, one of the key things to point out here is the commissioner just said that hundreds of law enforcement people are involved. That includes now the FBI. I'm told that U.S. Marshals, every available federal service that can give support will offer it, make it available. This is the worst case scenario, mass shooting, heavily armed shooter, still at large, possible mental health issues. This is, all hands on deck situation, I'm being told. The fact that the Attorney General, President were briefed as quickly tells you the scale of the carnage. And suffice it to say, law enforcement is on edge and wants to get this resolved as quickly as possible.
And ABC News is reporting there are at least 20 people believed dead, dozens more perhaps injured at multiple hospital locations across Lewiston, Maine. This is the home of Bates College, about some 35 miles north of Portland, Maine. Again, this person is still not in custody, this person of interest, described by authorities as armed and dangerous. And citizens are urged to shelter in place, both in Lewiston and in a location where his car was found.
They are being urged, Juju, to shelter in place because this person of interest is considered armed and dangerous, and because he is not in custody, perhaps also knowing some of his history with the military and the fact that he's a firearms instructor, so well familiar with handling firearms. They were able to track down a car that's associated with the suspect, the white Subaru you're seeing on your screen now. That was found in Lisbon, Maine, which is several miles from Lewiston. And the authorities are now urging people in Lisbon, Maine, where that vehicle was found, to also shelter in place while this manhunt continues.
And I want to bring in now our former FBI special agent and ABC News contributor, Brad Garrett. Now, Brad, we're being told that there's a reunification center at a middle school. There's clearly a lot of dynamic and fluid situation here. What can we expect in the coming hours as this manhunt continues?
So we don't know, obviously, if Lisbon is relevant as to where this suspect might be. However, he drove there for some reason. So I would suggest that people that go on the run typically go to locations where they have been before. That's not always the case, but it tends to be familiarity tends to drive really most of us in a particular direction. And so is he on foot? Did he leave the weapon behind? Obviously, I don't know the answers to those. Those become completely relevant. Does he have a cabin or a location or a lake that he goes to in the past? These are all questions I'd be asking the family to see if they could track him, because there was reporting earlier that the family got involved in some form or fashion. That makes sense to me. Saw his picture, called him in, and they started looking for him. So all of those things can take you in a potential direction where he might be. And obviously, this is a guy you really have to get in custody as quickly as you can, because what he's done so far, would he continue to do that? We just don't know the answer, but the potential is obviously there.
And Brad, when you look at that surveillance video of this person of interest carrying what looks like a high-powered assault-style weapon, what comes to mind in the fact that there are two locations several miles apart, a bowling alley with lots of people, we were told, a youth bowling league underway, and then a second location, a bar and grill with, again, more sort of civilians in that second location?
They may represent something to this shooter. You know, going back to what Aaron said,
there's so much
that he was in a mental health facility. Obviously, this lad has some real issues. And so if that's true, is he driven by something in his head that's telling him to go to certain locations? Or maybe more importantly, what do they represent in his reality? In other words, this bowling alley and this particular bar/restaurant, it may not make any logical sense to the rest of us, but it may. It's just really hard to say, but they do mean something to him, or he wouldn't have gone to them.
Now, police are urging extreme caution. Brad Garrett, thank you so much. And Aaron, one last moment with you. Clearly, he's described as armed and dangerous. He is not yet in custody. This is a very dynamic situation. Knowing what you've now learned about his background, where do you think this investigation heads?
It's very worrying, Juju,